For the sake of transparency, I am my ex-fiance's girl best friend. We have been friends since his family moved across the road from us when I was 11. We have been there for each other through the highs and the lows of our lives. I was there to play video games with him when his parents were fighting so badly they ended up divorced. He was there for me when my dad died. I was the only family at his college graduation and hired a couple of drag queens to come cheer him on with me. He was there for me and my husband when we lost our baby. We have inside jokes, we share the same interests, and we have the same friend group. My sister and I are not so close. Not because we don't get along. We're just different people. I don't want to give a bad impression of my sister and make out that she's some unreasonable, jealous banshee. Because until this all happened, there was no bad blood between us, or so I thought. When she and my ex-fiancé came out as a couple, I was happy for her. She had finally found a good one, and I wanted that for my sister. Was I surprised her good one was my friend? Yeah, but I was no less happy for her. My ex-fiancé popped the question in May. The wedding was planned for July 2025, and the engagement party was in September. I don't know all the details of what happened between them from May through September, but from what my aunt told me, it all centered around me. It started with my sister asking my ex-fiancé not to ask me to stand up with him as a groomswoman. I didn't know he was going to ask. I didn't expect it. My sister told him the reason was that she was planning to ask me to be her maid of honor. Again, I didn't know she was going to ask me, and I didn't expect it. According to my aunt, he kept bringing it up. They didn't have a lot of time to plan the wedding my sister wanted, and the sooner I was able to give them a hand with the planning, the easier it would be all around. I'm not a planner, not professionally or otherwise. What I am is organized and efficient. My sister is disorganized and inefficient. She likes to leave things to the very last minute. Most of the time that works for her. But I know her dream wedding. She's been planning it since before she got her first boyfriend. She would need as much time as possible to pull it all together. According to my aunt, they began to argue. My sister would accuse my ex-fiancé of wanting me to be a part of the wedding more than he wanted to marry her. He began to accuse her of being needlessly insecure and jealous. There were some nights during those months when my husband and I would get home from work to find him waiting for us. This wasn't out of the ordinary. He would spend the night on our couch, which also wasn't unusual, but he never gave a hint that there was trouble in their relationship. My sister, too, didn't say a word about it, at least not to me. They planned their engagement party. My friend group, which also includes my ex-fiancé's friend group, I find it strange that no whisper got back to any of us about it. But none of us received invitations, and none of us knew about it. Surely my ex-fiancé mentioned it to someone? It turns out he didn't. He thought we all knew and had RSVP'd. He didn't know my sister had given verbal invitations and asked people to keep it quiet, as they were only inviting a small number to save for the wedding. It wasn't until he saw all his friends missing from the celebration that he had suspicions that something was amiss. The next day he asked her why none of his friends were at the party, and why I, her own sister, didn't attend. She told him that none of us could make it, that we all had other commitments. He didn't believe her and pushed her on it. They argued about it long and hard until she finally snapped. She spewed out a whole heap of stuff about how he always prioritizes me over her, that she knows he's been in love with me since we were kids, how she used to spy on us when we were teens, and I was always at his house playing video games, how after our dad died he barely left my side, and how she thought my baby must have been his because of how much support he gave us during the funeral and in the following weeks. She then told him it was time he chose. So he did. He took his ring off her finger and walked out. The first I heard about any of this was when my mom called me to yell at me about ruining my sister's happiness. I asked her what she was talking about, and she kept saying that I knew what I had done. She hung up on me, then called my husband at work to tell him about my secret affair with my ex-fiancé. My husband thinks both my mom and sister are ridiculous and dramatic, so he didn't listen to her for long before hanging up on her. He didn't even bother to tell me she called him until he got home from work, and then he was all disinterested in the topic, like he was giving me instructions on how to watch paint dry. To be honest, until my husband told me about the call, I thought my mom was on some trip, that she was off her medication or something. Even though she's not on medication for anything, she can become very excitable about stuff. That's when I decided to call my sister. No answer. I called my mom. No answer. I called my ex-fiancé. Again, no answer. Now for an update, I have since had my ex-fiancé's account of everything. I unfortunately can see it all happening as he says it happened, but I don't have my sister's side of the story. I don't want to make any assumptions or come to any conclusions until I talk to her. Wanting to talk to her has nothing to do with her relationship with my ex-fiancé. That's for them to sort out. It has everything to do with us as sisters. She is my only sister, my baby sister. We may not have been close at any point in our lives, but we were never adversaries. Our older brothers, my younger brother, and my husband are telling me to let sleeping dogs lie. That whatever her issues, they are her issues. And if my mom wants to play into it, then let her go too. I'm fine with putting my relationship with my mom on the back burner. My sister, not so much. This estrangement hurts my heart. Does anyone have any advice on how I can bring about a conversation and hopefully a reconciliation? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Leave it alone. Stop trying to talk with her. It just makes you look more guilty in her mind. She has convinced herself you have an inappropriate relationship with her ex. She destroyed her own life. You're an innocent bystander in all this mess. Some folks truly believe that men and women can't just be friends. Some believe there is always intimacy involved. Your relationship is probably damaged beyond repair. Nothing you say or do will change this. Let it go. Talk with a therapist if you have to. You no longer have a sister. Unless she seeks out professional help or there is divine intervention, she will go to her grave believing you destroyed her relationship. Just ignore her and your mother. She has latched onto this delusion. Go no contact with her as well. It may not be forever, but it is for the foreseeable future. Let it go. Comment 2. If you were surprised to learn they are now a couple, how much do you want to bet? She did the pursuing, the secret dating, and convinced him to do the reveal that way. This whole relationship was not organic. She was probably pining for him for years and then just decided that she's going to take him from you. It was never going to work in the long run, with family get-togethers, kids, and other things in the mix, because she would have always been in competitive mode unbeknownst to you, while giving him grief at home about you. This is what happens when a person unilaterally decides to change the natural order of things and insert themselves in a situation that's bigger than them. She should have seen and kept him as her sister's friend, not a romantic prospect. Now, for the update. About 3 weeks after the engagement party, I got a text from my sister asking to meet up. She didn't really explain what it was about, but I kinda had a feeling we needed to talk. We agreed to meet at our parents' house for lunch, which is basically a familiar spot for both of us. I thought it would be a good neutral place to chat without too much drama. I arrived early, set the table, and all that stuff, just hoping we could have a peaceful conversation. When my sister arrived, she looked tense and was carrying a pastry box. The awkwardness was real. We exchanged these really awkward greetings, and neither of us knew how to start. I mean, what do you even say after everything that went down? So she opened the pastry box and offered me a piece, trying to break the ice, I guess. I took a piece, but still felt the tension hanging around. It was like we were surrounded by it. Finally, she spoke up, saying she wanted to clear things up about the engagement party. I just listened while she expressed her frustration over the ex-fiancé's actions that night. Apparently, when he confronted her about not inviting me, she just lost it. She admitted she felt a lot of pressure from our mom to keep the engagement perfect. I mentioned how our mom had blamed me for the chaos, which really surprised her. She apologized for not reaching out sooner and acknowledged her own insecurities. We both kinda agreed it was easier to blame each other than confront the real issues. I mean, it was true. We both had some stuff to own up to. But before we could dive deeper, our mom unexpectedly walked in with groceries, totally interrupting the moment. My sister's face just fell, and she immediately shifted to this defensive tone. Our mom started asking about wedding plans, totally oblivious to the tension between us. I noticed my sister's discomfort and suggested we change the subject, which we did. We talked about our childhood memories, and it brought some lightness back to the conversation. It was nice to reminisce a little, but then my sister admitted she felt overshadowed by my past with the ex-fiancé. That kind of hit me hard. She took a deep breath and said she needed to talk to him about their relationship. Later that week, she contacted him to meet up at a local cafe. I overheard them arguing a little when I picked up my sister from the cafe. It got kind of heated, and my sister stormed out, visibly upset. He followed her out, and I just decided to give them some space. But seriously, I felt the tension rising again. A few days later, my sister invited me to a family dinner at our parents' house. I thought it would be a nice way to chill together, but during dinner, our mom brought up the wedding again. It was like she was just asking for trouble. My sister kind of lashed out and revealed in front of everyone that she felt pressured and didn't want to rush into marriage. Our mom was shocked, and the atmosphere got heavy with silence. The ex-fiancé, who was also at dinner, looked really uncomfortable and left the table. My sister chased after him, and I was just left alone with our parents. It was super awkward. I ended up confronting our mom about her role in the pressure. Yeah, that caused a really heated discussion. She finally admitted she wanted everything to be perfect, but realized she was pushing way too hard. The next day, my sister sent a text to the ex-fiancé ending the engagement. I didn't know about it until later, but he replied with anger, and she just stood her ground, not looking back. A week after that, she organized a small get-together with close friends to celebrate her new start. It was a pretty emotional week for both of us. Edit. After the engagement ended, my sister and I worked on rebuilding our relationship. We both realized we needed therapy separately and together to address our issues. It took time, but we got back to being close. She's now focusing on herself and exploring new job opportunities. We're doing much better now. Am I the idiot for asking my husband to cut back on his meds so he can help with our baby at night? My husband and I have been married for 7 years. We recently welcomed our baby girl 3 months ago, and things have been really, really hard. My husband, without disclosing any personal details, experienced trauma in his teens and is on medication. He takes a medication at night that prevents night terrors. However, it induces heavy sleep, and he cannot wake up until morning. This is all necessary for him to manage his post-traumatic stress disorder. This is proving to be extremely difficult because he hardly wakes up at night in response to the baby's cries, and I feel some mild resentment. Even though I know he's not intentionally ignoring us, I'm tired. So tired that I can't cope. One day I just fainted and felt depersonalized because I was so exhausted. I cried a lot that day. What if my daughter was in my arms when I collapsed? It terrified me. I was really feeling desperate and asked my husband if he could try to take it easy on his nightly medication because I really needed his support, which I know was a bad move considering what I just experienced. The first few nights, nothing major happened, and he stepped up to help. However, one night he just started thrashing around, pushed me off the bed, which caused some bleeding from my head and bruised my eyelid. It didn't look like he was in his senses when that happened. And when the next morning he woke up, he asked me very concerned what the hell had happened. I fought with him that day, even though he profusely apologized for what happened. Obviously, I know what he did was not intentional because he didn't even remember doing that in that altered state, and he doesn't have a history of being violent with me. It's the first time this sort of thing has happened, and I'm unable to let go. He is a fully available parent in other areas of our lives together, but this area is the one I need him the most. I'm just so angry at myself and at him that this happened. Even though it wasn't his fault, I still feel angry. I have virtually no support in terms of family, as we are immigrants and can't afford to hire childcare, nor qualify for any citizen-related benefits. I have no idea how to process all this. I want my husband to be there with me at night, but this incident shook me, and I can't seem to accept the fact that he may never wake up at night for the baby because it's not recommended. To add, My husband is already seeing a psychiatrist and is prescribed his necessary medications. Trust me when I say this. This medication was the only thing working so far to manage his episodes until the baby came along, and I realized how much I needed him to be there. Additionally, it's not like talking in therapy about his problems will suddenly help him get over his trauma. I refrained from sharing any personal details, but the situations he was in left a lasting impact on his life, and it can only be managed, never fully cured. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Reducing his dose without speaking to his doctor first was not a safe decision. Consult his doctor as soon as possible about what he can do so he can be present at night to help out if that's possible. 2. Go to therapy. You are still in the postpartum stage and your feelings will be intense. Your feelings are valid and therapy can help you move on from what your husband couldn't control. The thrashing. It wasn't his fault and you need to let this resentment go. 3. If possible, have family or friends try to help out at nights or early mornings. If no one is available, see if you have any funds to hire help. 4. Give your husband grace. He's been on this medication before the baby, and the two of you should have come up with a plan before the baby arrived. It's not too late to come up with a plan. If he can't help at all during the night, then he needs to step up the second he wakes up and take care of the baby. 5. The late night wakings and feedings aren't forever. You two will get through this. I wish you the best. Comment 2. Just reducing the dose of these medications without consulting a doctor can be very dangerous. You have to be weaned off of some medications to avoid such side effects. Quite apart from the fact that he needs these to be a functioning human being, and this might very well affect his ability to parent during the day as well. I feel like this should have been a conversation before you had the child. However, if it wasn't, now it's time to do that. I understand your resentment, but you need to let go of this for a little while you two figure out a solution that will work for both of you. This is not him not stepping up. As someone else already suggested, maybe you can break the night up into shifts where he goes first, or he can make sure you get to nap during the day. Now for the update. It's been a week since my husband, during a violent episode, pushed me off the bed. I'm still a bit shaken up from that, so I've been sleeping on the couch to avoid any more incidents. I know he didn't mean to hurt me, but, sleep deprived and emotional. He's been trying to manage his meds better since then, but he's really struggling with sleep, which is saying something since he usually sleeps super deeply. I'm talking about a bear in hibernation. So I decided we needed to have a talk about a nighttime routine to help him stay calm. I thought it would be a good idea to have a calming ritual before bed, like reading together and playing some soft music. We agreed on it, and honestly, I thought it was going to be this cozy bonding experience. The first few nights were okay, but then one night, during our ritual, he suddenly got agitated after a loud noise outside. I mean, we live in the city, so there's always something going on. I'm trying to comfort him, but he accidentally pushes me away. Not hard, but enough to make me feel that familiar rush of anxiety. At that moment, I just wanted to run away, but I stuck it out. This left me shaken, and I decided to reach out to his therapist for some advice. I had her email on hand from when he started therapy, so I shot her an email explaining everything. She got back to me with some great advice. She suggested setting clear boundaries for nighttime care. She emphasized that we both needed to prioritize self-care. When I shared this with my husband, he got really defensive and hurt. He felt like he was failing, which made me feel bad for bringing it up in the first place. We ended up having this heated discussion about our roles as parents. He suggested getting help from a family member, but that's a hard no from me. We have some past conflicts there that I'm not ready to dive into. So we kind of left that conversation on a sour note. Then, during a family dinner at his parents' house, his sister made a joke about our parenting skills. I could see the humor in it, but it wasn't the right time. This triggered a defensive reaction from my husband, and we ended up arguing in front of everyone. It was a mess. The next day, he apologized but insisted he feels judged by my family. I talked to my mom about it, and she suggested having a family meeting to address everyone's concerns. It sounded like a good idea, so I organized the meeting and invited both my husband and my parents to participate. The meeting started off calm, but my husband's defensiveness escalated tensions again. Seriously, it's like he has this switch that just flips. Then his sister interrupted, bringing up some past family issues that had nothing to do with the meeting. At that point, I lost my patience and confronted her about her insensitivity. I don't think anyone at the table saw that coming, including me. The atmosphere became really tense, and my husband felt supported by his sister. He ended up lashing out at me for embarrassing him. The argument reached a boiling point, and he stormed out of the house. After that, he learned about my plans for a family meeting and felt abandoned, leading to another argument. I know what he was trying to do, but it wasn't a solution. He reluctantly agreed to join the family meeting, but expressed anger about not being included in the decision. I get that it was frustrating for him, but we were in crisis mode, so he's been struggling with everything, including the kids' outing. He felt overwhelmed by the environment. Then, out of nowhere, we got hit by a thunderstorm. It came out of nowhere. I'm talking about pure chaos. The kids were panicking, and my husband just froze in fear. I stepped in, guiding everyone to safety, while he stood there, looking totally freaked out. When the storm passed, we had our first counseling session. We're both so tired and just want to make it work. I felt like we were finally ready to tackle our challenges together, and maybe, just maybe, things would start looking up for us. Edit. It's been a week since our first counseling session, and it was really helpful. We discussed our issues, and the counselor gave us tools to improve our communication. My husband has started being more involved with our daughter. We're working on building our team. No more family meetings for now. Am I the idiot for exposing my husband's fake Freemason life and demanding the truth? The long and short of it is that for about 6 years now, my husband has been a Freemason, and I've always supported him in this. My grandfather was a Freemason, so it's not really new to me or anything, and I don't believe in any of the conspiracy theories you find online. But I'm starting to think it may not be the best for him. My grandpa always used to say it was family, work, masonry, but in my husband's case, it's more masonry, 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 then family, then work, then masonry again. He attends lodge nearly every night. For context, my grandpa would go a couple times a month, and yet he's only a fellow craft, so not a part of the additional things like the Scottish Rite or Shriners or anything. I genuinely don't know how he has the stamina for it, because I'm a part of an improv theater club, and frankly, every other week is enough. Sometimes he's gone for hours, other times an hour or even less. When I ask him what he's doing, he gets defensive and says he can't tell me because he has to maintain secrecy. I knew full well there would be some lessons and ceremonies I wouldn't exactly be getting a front row seat for, but I don't think it's that unfair. I ask what he could possibly be doing that occupies him practically daily. Hell, some days when he comes back early, he goes to his man cave to do more work for them. Apparently, he's volunteered to do administrative work for his Grand Lodge, but when does it end? He doesn't get paid for any of this, and he spends so much on dues to actually do this. I've even tried to get involved via the Order of the Eastern Star, something I've always wanted to be a part of, but he flat out shut it down and said that we can only look into that when he becomes a Master Mason, which is apparently still years away. And it's not even just our marriage it's affecting. Some weeks he's out so late with his lodge buddies that he doesn't take care of himself. There have been times he hasn't worn clean clothes or shaved, and plenty of times he's gone into work without showering. Sometimes he doesn't even go into work and just calls in hours late to say he's been called for urgent lodge business. His boss is too good to him and lets it slide because he's genuinely blown away that my husband's in the Masons and thinks these meetings must be very important. I get a lot of these guys are going to be retired, but Jesus Christ, surely they have to know how it works. It's making a bad impression on people, and I genuinely can't remember the last time we did something together as a couple. Plus, our bedroom has been dead for at least a year, which I've sort of put up with because I have a low libido, but I guess it's just another symptom. Every time I ask him to do anything, he just tells me he's too tired. I guess I need to find a way to express to him that his Masonic life needs to slow down. It's not even affecting just me, it's affecting our whole lives, but I don't even know where to begin. I don't want him to leave the Masons, just maybe calm it down a little so we can have our lives back. How can I communicate this to him without seeming like I'm jealous of the secrets or that I want to worsen the wedge between us? By the way, I did actually email the worshipful master of his lodge to express that I'm kind of worried for him, but I've not heard back yet, and if they're all this active, I'm not sure how much help he will be. Thanks for any advice. To add, the worshipful master just emailed me. He apologized for taking his time and explained that my husband has not been a member of that lodge for at least 5 years, having left just under a year after he joined. Apparently, he had difficulties with the leadership and had been repeatedly cautioned for soliciting the other lodge members. He told me he checked with other lodges in the area and none of them have any record of him switching, so it seems he demitted entirely. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He hears you. He doesn't care. As others have pointed out, this isn't a Freemasonry thing, it's a lying husband thing. But let's assess. You could go all Magnum PI on him, or you can decide that even on the surface, it's not what you want, and you can leave him based on that. I want a spouse who is devoted to me and our family, not someone who's out all hours every day. Either you scale back to once a week, or we can divorce and you can spend all of your time on your lodge. And rolling into work in yesterday's clothes? That's not going to fly if it's a regular thing. And no Freemason I've ever known has that in their membership card. But you're not naive enough to believe this nonsense, are you? Comment 2. Literally one of the first teachings in Freemasonry is about life balance. And there's usually a discussion with the spouse of new candidates regarding time expectations. Either this post is complete nonsense, or your husband is a shameful excuse for a Freemason. Now for the update. I finally talked to my husband about his secret life. It's been 2 days since I found out my husband hasn't been a Mason for 5 years. I decided to bring it up at dinner, hoping to have a calm convo. He came home late as usual, looking messy and tired, and brought takeout. I tried to set the mood by lighting candles and serving wine. We sat down, and I brought up his Masonic commitments, casually mentioning my email to the worshipful master. He froze, fork midair, then laughed nervously, asking what I meant by that. I told him about the response, revealing his absence from the lodge for years. He quickly changed the subject, talking about a new project he's involved in. He deflected again, saying it's just something he's working on alone. My curiosity grew. I remembered the recent nights he came home late. I asked about his whereabouts during those nights. He claimed he was busy with his Masonic friends but avoided eye contact. I remembered a recent family dinner where he left early, claiming he had a meeting. After dinner, I decided to check his phone while he was in the shower. I just needed some clarity. I found messages from a woman discussing plans and meetings, but there was no mention of Masonry. He walked in unexpectedly, catching me with his phone. He demanded to know what I was doing, visibly angry. I showed him the messages, and he became defensive, claiming it's work-related. Things got heated as I questioned his honesty. He stormed out, saying he needs space to think. I sent a text introducing myself and asking about their connection. The woman responded quickly, saying she's just a colleague involved in a community project. They agreed to meet at a local coffee shop the next day. I arrived early, and when the woman came, she looked friendly and genuine. We sat and chatted, and she explained the project involves helping local families. I brought up my husband, and she seemed surprised. She thought he was just busy with his work. We connected over shared frustrations about our busy partners. I decided to confront him again, this time with evidence from the meeting. That evening, I waited for him to come home, armed with new info. When he arrived, I calmly told him about my meeting with the woman. He looked stunned, realizing he couldn't escape the truth anymore. I laid out my findings and demanded answers. He finally admitted he's been involved in a different group, not Freemasonry, which involves late-night meetings. I pushed for clarity on what this group is about. He fumbled but eventually revealed it's a secretive organization focused on influence and networking. He agreed to cut ties with the group. We ended the night discussing how to rebuild trust and communication moving forward. I feel a bit better after laying everything out. I know it's going to take time to rebuild that trust, but I'm willing to stick it out if he is too. I can't say I'm fully okay with this secretive organization stuff, but at least he's not lying about it anymore. He says he's done with them, and I hope he means it. I'm still feeling hurt and anxious about this, but I feel like we took a small step in the right direction. I just want my family back on track. That's all. Wish me luck. Edit. Many people are concerned about the relationship and my patience with the lies. I want to clarify that he's been my best friend for years. I didn't want to give up on him so easily. He understands the trust is broken and is willing to work on rebuilding it. I'm hopeful, but cautious. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.